So we're going to record this, and it will be eventually be on our website, on the OLLI website. So I'd just like to introduce everybody to the final session of the fourth annual meeting of the Wolf Lake Watershed Advisory Committee. And this morning we're going to have presentations by three teachers. And the first will be Rebecca Gostantny. So if you'd like to take over, Rebecca, I've already sent out your biography so everybody knows about you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so my name is Rebecca Gostantny, and I am a biology teacher at Bishop Noll. This is my 16th year teaching. I wanted to thank everybody, first of all, for the opportunity to speak to you today, and I would like to thank you for giving me the grant. Thank you so much for that. So my project is, the goal of it is going to be to expose my students to the biodiversity of the Wolf Lake watershed. And I kind of want to do something similar to what we did on our field trip that day, where I stay in the Wolf Lake watershed. I live in Robertsdale myself. So it's just a part of my life growing up. I've always been around this area, and I realize all the biodiversity that we have here, so I want to share that with my students. And my students do live in Illinois and Indiana, so just that the fact that the Wolf Lake watershed is also in both states, and it's so close to home, and it's something that kind of centralizes us. It's a really nice thing to highlight for the students, just how much biodiversity we have here. So I want to guide them through some short lessons that will happen before, we go for the field trip that day. Plan is to do it in the spring sometime, if everything works out with that. With field trip, right now we're restricted on field trips, but I'm really hoping, especially for an outdoor field trip, is possible there in the springtime sometime. The topics I want to talk about are ornithology with the students, since there's so much biodiversity of bird species in the Wolf Lake watershed. Also plant diversity, the impact of water quality on aquatic ecosystems, and discussion and exploration of the history of the restoration efforts in Wolf Lake also, and the goals behind that. So I'd like to share my screen and point out a little bit more here. Okay, so I'm assuming everybody can see that.
Yes. We can see
okay, thank you. So I want to introduce you to my biology club, which will be the students that will be benefiting from this. In the past, we've done field trips to the University of Chicago and focused more on genetics and some cellular biology, very different. Just going to glance through a few of these photos. We've had neuroscientists come and talk to them about the brain. We celebrate National DNA Day. And again, these would be the students in the group that would be benefiting. It's students from all of my classes that come together, and even students that I don't teach that want to have more of an opportunity in science. So we celebrate science, and like I said, these are some of the field trips that we went with the University of Chicago in the past. They've learned programming that biologists can use. They've talked to medical doctors. This was a pulmonologist in the photo on the left, where they read his research and also were able to talk to him. So what we're excited for right now is to look forward for biology experiences centered around nature. Like I said, spring of 2020 is the plan to do this field trip, and also throughout the whole spring semester, prepare for it and reflect on it afterwards. And hopefully this experience surrounded by nature is a great experience for the students, and it's all thanks to the Association for Wolf Lake Initiative for helping us out with this. So the first point that we want to look at is bird diversity in the Wolf Lake watershed. So previous to the field trip, I want to work with my students by introducing them to the various bird species. I would like to use the apps, the eBird and Merlin Bird ID apps, something I was familiar with, but Colleen had also pointed those out on our field trip that day in June, and I've been using them even more since then. So I think the students are going to enjoy that. I even used it in some of my other classes for some activities that we had since then. So they really like it. They like using those apps to identify different species. So before we go for our field trip, we're going to spend some time like studying bird species in class, so they're more comfortable if they see something that they're going to have an idea of what it is. And going to do little, like at our biology club meetings that we have, we're going to do little weekly quizzes to see that they are able to identify, they have like a good idea of what different groups of birds are, and maybe look for key characteristics. Also want to talk a little bit about bird evolution with them, and I'm planning to get some different kind of slides and things to kind of complement the lessons with feathers as well, and to kind of initiate a discussion using microscopes looking at bird feathers and the evolution of feathers, just so they have a good background of information of a topic that usually we don't cover in our science classes. And so this is just a picture of that app. Some of the stuff we'll do previous to going on the trip, like looking through their whole listing of species in the Hammond region. And then while we're on the field trip, we're going to use binoculars. We'll do it throughout the day, but we're going to obviously highlight earlier in the day when we go, really kind of focusing on looking for different birds. And then the students will bring their iPads with them, because all of our students do have iPads, to take pictures. And this is just an example of what I would have them fill out for the day, like place their picture that they get. Or, you know, maybe look up a picture if they see a bird, but then they couldn't get a good picture of it, maybe look it up and get a picture like this. Identify them using the app, put some key characteristics in there as well. And then the second portion that we'll highlight throughout the day and also prepare for ahead of time and discuss afterwards is plant diversity. So this one, I find that Seek app works really well, that Colleen had mentioned when we were on our trip. And, you know, even though my students are high school students, they seem to really get a lot out of stuff like this, because they're just not as connected to nature if they haven't taken like an environmental science class yet. You know, even like our biology classes don't focus as much on it. So that's why I'm really happy for this opportunity to share more of this with them. But we're going to do something similar with the birds, but in this time focusing on the plants that we see throughout the day. And we're going to pay special attention to whether the species are native, invasive, or introduced species of plants, and talk about the impact of those, or why they might be here, maybe the history of some of that afterwards. Okay, so we'll do something again like this, where the students can get pictures. It'll be much easier to get these pictures of the plants using the Seek app, identify the type of plant that they find throughout the day. Just some examples here that I threw out. And then paying attention to what they determine, because in the app it also does tell you, you know, which is which. We'll spend some time discussing, you know, what that means, like, especially like with the Phragmites that are so plentiful around the Wolf Lake watershed. What does it mean that they're invasive? When did they come here? What's the history of that? And what's their impact on other species? Okay, so then like the third part of it all, which all of these will kind of weave throughout the day, but I just kind of wanted to break it down into different things that we're focusing on, is I also want to do some water testing. So I would purchase the supplies to do different types of water testing at the various areas. I remember when we were on the trip by the Powderhorn Lake, that they said how like clean that water was there. Just thought it would be neat to do some comparison of the different samples of water from the different regions. So that's something we would definitely focus on, and take our results back and discuss them afterwards in our group meetings. I also want to take some time to discuss like the history of the restoration efforts made at Wolf Lake. One of the courses I took in grad school was, I did my grad school at, my master's degree was at Purdue Northwest. And Dr. Choi was my professor for wetlands and plant ecology. So I know he spent a lot of time discussing with us some of the efforts that were made with the Wolf Lake restoration of aquatic ecosystem habitats and stuff like that. So I want to point out to the students the islands that are there and how the impact of that and how things have progressed since some of those modifications were made. And like I mentioned before, that the students become, since I do teach at Bishop Knoll and we have students from both Indiana and Illinois, I just think that this project will be key to kind of unifying all of us with an ecosystem that is centralized right here on the state line of Indiana and Illinois. And I know that the students will be surprised with all the biodiversity that they do see this day. I know that it's something that they don't always spend time paying attention to. And that's really the goal of this project, is to highlight it with, you know, going out there and actually seeing some of these things, using the technology, using the apps, talking about some key things that we see throughout the day, preparing for it by doing some preliminary work and research so that they're prepared, and then taking what we learn and discussing it afterwards in our various meetings. Okay, so the last thing that I plan to do, if there's time, is I know that there's a little greenhouse, and another instructor has done yoga here in the past on the Hammond side of Wolf Lake. But any location that we do find, I am a certified yoga instructor, so I think it's a nice way to end the day by kind of just enjoying the fresh air, you know, hearing the birds and doing some yoga to kind of reflect on what we learned throughout the day, and just appreciating it by taking some moment of peace at the end. So nothing too serious, just like a quick little meditation, a few little stretches. I think with students, we do it at school sometimes, especially pre-COVID. We do some yoga with them. So they seem to like it. And I'm hoping that that is something that I can do that day as well. Okay, so I think that's pretty much what I wanted to share with everybody about the project.
Okay, and we'll have some questions. We have everyone with, one of the questions I have is currently, how much of your instruction is in person, and how much, I may have missed it, but how much of it is virtual?
Well, we do in person Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then we do virtual on Wednesday, just to have time for deep cleaning. So we're you know 80% in person right now. Some students do choose to stay home and do their education completely in virtual, but I do have a good number of students, specifically the ones that would be involved in this project, are pretty much the ones who are in person right now. So we've been kind of chugging along with the in-person education, with just, you know, we haven't had to shut it down for 2 weeks or anything. We've been in person since August. So it's just those Wednesdays that we do virtual.
Okay.
I got a question here. Wayne Schimpf, retired high school biology teacher in Chicago, and also secretary of the caretakers of the Environment International. And your Bishop Knoll Institute, that's a private school, I take it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So do you use any international sharing programs at all, with where your students that are doing going to be doing your work and so on, to share with other students that may be in similar ecosystems but in other parts of the world, so they can see that it's not only a local problem, but teens in other countries are also excited about doing the same type of habitat exploration and restoration you're doing?
Yeah, no, I haven't done anything like that. But it's that, just you saying that sounds interesting to me. It's something that I definitely look into.
Okay, well, we've got a Chicago chapter of it that we're trying to gear up and so on like that. And if you want to Google afterwards, Caretakers of the Environment International, and it's caretakers. Well, you can just Google it and see it and so on. So we've are starting a global program led by former high school students that are now gone on to college and leading the effort by our senior alumni from the program, and helping to connect students and teachers like yourself with like-minded in basically any ecosystem in the world, from Russia to Hong Kong to
Wow.
South Africa, you name it, and that.
Wow.
So I think your students would really have some fun, doing this, and so I'm kind of excited to hear your program. And that Michael said that I would enjoy Saturday connecting with the teachers here, because you've got the right spirit and ethic, and I think that there's many other teachers that you would like to partner with and have your students, more important, share their work and compare and contrast and so on like that. So we can talk afterwards. You can get my email. It's just and we can communicate afterwards in that. So, and one of the things, are you doing anything out of the Indiana Dunes National Parks Environmental Learning Center, their residential program, to compare, or are you just focusing, just starting your, adventure into the outdoors with your students?
Focusing this year on Wolf Lake Watershed, but
Okay.
I definitely have looked into some of those programs with the dunes. I mean, they have a lot going on there. That's really awesome.
Yeah, because I was the first naturalist ranger that ever worked at the Indiana Dunes
Wow.
National Lakeshore back in the 70s, and helped start the Environmental Learning Center there. So there's a lot of resources, but I think you're exciting to focus on this long overlooked Wolf Lake area.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that your students can partner with some of the other high schools that are in the watershed, or with the program of KIMBY and so on. If you're not familiar with that, I'm sure that there's other people on this feed that can tell you more about KIMBY and that program. But you're doing it great. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
For all the information, because I think students at this age really like the idea of like pen pals, or thinking about people who live in other countries. We've had like exchange students come in, and it's a really good experience for them. They're interested in their culture and everything, so I think they would really like to.
Oh yeah. And see, what's neat with their cell phone on WhatsApp and some of the instant ones, they can be right out at Wolf Lake looking at Phragmites or so on, and connect with somebody that's doing restoration work in Hong Kong Harbor that's got their quilting of Phragmites. What do we do with it? And there aren't too many things that hang out in that invasive community in that. So you've got a lot of fun ahead of you. So let's talk afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I do have to go to a wedding today, so I have to run. But if I could get your email, that would be really helpful. So I don't know.
I can
You can get it to me. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Yeah.
Okay, and I just want to say that our next speaker is from the Hegewisch community in Chicago, and that would be Melissa Ramirez.
Hi, good morning.
Why don't you
So
go
as
ahead, Melissa, and then after your talk, we'll open it up for Q&A, okay?
Sure. See if I can adjust my volume. My computer's being a little difficult this morning. So thank you for being here, and thank you for having me on this wonderful program. I'm so excited about it. This is my 9th year teaching with Chicago Public Schools, and it is my 2nd year at Grissom Elementary in Hegewisch. Prior to that, I was at Taylor Elementary. Also, it's on the far southeast side, right along Calumet Park in Lake Michigan. And so while I was there, I worked a lot with the Field Museum and Earth Force and building up a green team. We had native gardens, and my classroom, because, well, for one, I just love critters and animals. I teach science, and so my classroom was packed with aquariums. I had them all along the perimeter of the walls with different organisms, aquatics, reptiles, things like that. And I was doing that, one, to tie in with the science curriculum, to teach things like biomes and ecosystems in a small controlled area, to teach them how to monitor water quality for the aquatics. But also my students at the time were high needs and had experienced a lot of trauma. And so I was teaching them compassion with the animals. It was taking care of them was very therapeutic. And also teaching them responsibility. And so we were really able to build on that in the classroom, but then build on it even more outside the classroom when we would go out with Earth Force on those various little expeditions in the forest and whatnot. But recently I moved to Grissom Elementary, like I said, and so now I'm in Hegewisch, and I'm doing the same. The demographic of students is very different, but they're still very interested. They want to be involved with the critters. We still have them all along the perimeter of the walls. And they want to be involved. We have a national beta club, and so we have a plethora of students who want to volunteer. They want to help in any way, shape, or form. And so I would like to start to introduce them to like different things with the environment, how they can be, I'm sorry, my daughter's in here and distracted me with a cookie. Come here, she's 4. I would like to introduce them to like stewardship and how they can take action with our environment, being that Hegewisch is right along so many different environmental things. You know, we got the Wolf Lake right there and Powderhorn, and then we have the pollution situation. And so I would like to get them involved with that. And I want to do that with a project with mud puppies. In our classroom, we do have salamanders, newts, and axolotls. Axolotls are from Mexico, but they're now extinct in the wild. And they look very similar to mud puppies. And what I find is that students, especially at the young age between 6 and 8, they look at a species and they group them. Like if they look the same, they assume they are the same. And so like if they look at an axolotl, a mud puppy, and a newt, they think they're the same but different sizes. So I want them to learn to differentiate that even though they look the same, they're very different. Like the mud puppies and axolotls, their care is very different. Their needs are very different, their environment. So I want to have those different ecosystems in my classroom where they could see the difference. I could teach them the difference and then take it into stewardship where we do a breeding program with the mud puppies and eventually release them back and try to increase the population in the wild. Now we are 100% remote learning right now. And so I would say my project is quite delayed. We are not in the classroom. I have very limited access to my building. And so I have not been able to start my project. And my students are struggling online to keep up with the basic curriculum. So I was thinking, how can I make this virtual just to start it? But right now, at this very moment, it's not feasible. I'm hoping maybe as we get into the fall, I could start to introduce them. I do have my students for 3 years consecutively from 6th through 8th. So it would be nice to have it scaffolded for them where they have different levels from 6th to 8th grade and advance in it as they go along in the program. But that's about it. That's an overview. If anyone has any questions. I wish I had more to share with you, like I said, but I wasn't really able to start with my kids just yet.
Okay, Wayne Schimpf here. Yeah, Melissa, have you thought about developing some inquiry activities along your, interest that you were going to use with your aquariums and other resources there to do some backyard or front yard or neighborhood walk to a park, observations and record keeping and so on, and possibly drawing some conclusions based on what they observe in order to get them excited about, nature and the outdoor resources and so on, because they can always visit with their families the natural resources of your area and do independent, field observations and record keeping, and then they can share what they've done, through the online, work that you do with the students.
Yeah, I thought about it, but I'm really having a hard time with the engagement. And on top of the kids, the parents are also overwhelmed. And they've been complaining quite a bit just about having to do the science fair and having to do just the basic day-to-day activities. It seems like it's something that I'm really going to have to lead myself. And ideally, if we were in person, that's what I would have liked to do, is take a field trip out to the surroundings where they naturally live and try to go and visit and take water samples, compare the water quality, what it is in nature to what it is in our classroom, and try to simulate that and build up like a classroom ecosystem before we actually go out and get some organisms.
Well, one simple thing that I've worked with other teachers that are the same way, of just doing a simple rainbow walk experience where they're on their lunch break, open the door or look out the window and see a different color object in nature, and then report, today we all look for yellow. So what did you find yellow with your outdoor experience? And it's just this mental small break that psychologists that are working with people that are getting stressed and so on, this rainbow walk experience, just to change the pace and focus in on something natural that's organized and evolving and changing in a systematic way, adds a little more stability, to their lives. So something as just simple as doing that, you could try that to help break the, stress of the online classroom. So, yeah.
I really like that. I am definitely going to start doing that. I haven't thought about that before. I did have one with my 7th graders. We were talking about landforms, and I sent them out to their backyard. I said, look for a man-made landform, or look for any kind of a landform in your yard. And so some of them did it, and some of them, I don't know, the cameras were off, the microphones were off. I don't know where they were, but I like that, and I'm going to try that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just little things like that, and then have them keep a diary or a journal or something like that they can write down and, see it. And then if you want to do a little art, have them make a rough sketch of the yellow object that they saw or whatever it is, so that it begins a mental stability process, that you can, offer your students.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I chime in for 1 second? So I'm Jory Matthews. I'll be presenting next, I believe. But just on that idea of having the kids at home go outside and do some sort of nature walk is something that I've done with my students, because we've been virtual and then in person. Now we're back to virtual. And I know one thing that I have found is I have a decent fraction of students in each of my classes who say they're not allowed to go outside during class, because I'm assuming they've been left at home alone.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that too.
So
yeah.
I know one thing that I've done that kind of works, but at least they can just step up to a window and just observe just from that one spot. But I know that there has been some challenges of even getting my 6th graders, to just go outside and make basic observations in their yard, where it seems like there's certain students who, for whatever reason, say they can't do that.
Well, but again, they could do this when their parents come home and so on. Where it gets more exciting is that they get their mom or dad to go outside and look for that rainbow color, and where did they find it? So then they begin to get into a dialogue, and the whole family focuses on something in nature. And that's what Richard Louv in his The Last Child in the Forest and so on, is all about the nature deficit disorder syndrome. And we're really suffering from that badly. And so anything that you can do and so on. And, that maybe Michael could, have a further meeting on Saturday like this and, begin to share some ideas and so on. We could get some other people in to help you do it. So, and just as simple, like you guys see, you got a potted plant behind you, that each student could adopt a potted plant and begin to keep a diary, on that. How often do they feed it, turn it 180 degrees so you don't, there's just many different things that you can do just to have a little bit of nature and its symmetry and, organization and so on that you can have. So, okay, I'll stop talking.
No, thank you. You're full of great ideas because now the wheels are turning. I'm thinking about how I can slowly start this virtually so that they're excited for it when we are back in person.
Yeah, so I mean, again, Michael can send you my email and stuff like that. So if we want to get a sharing, community, on this and that. So
Yeah, I mean, they're always excited when they walk in the room and there's a new aquarium set up. What's in there? They're just so curious. They want to know all about it. They want to become experts of it. So I know that they'll be excited for this, especially when they can tie it to the community. And then I was looking for that cultural aspect too, where you have these relatives. Are they relatives or are they not relatives? They look alike, the axolotl and the.
oh yeah, I mean, you're just opening a give them simple challenges in that, and then they ask you for clarification. Just repeat your challenge and let them discover it through their own thinking about it and so on, because they have a lot more fun exploring the possibilities. It's called the discovery approach to learning. So
Yeah,
let them discover.
will do. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Wayne,
Thank you for doing.
Oh, I'm so excited about it. I was so excited when I seen the opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm kind of bummed out by the remote learning right now. I feel very limited.
Yeah. Well, I think that coming here and Michael has wisely pulled a exciting team together and that. So, and that's what the teachers need to do. And then also there's an Environmental Education Association of Illinois that you could join and get further ideas and continue sharing with like-minded elementary teachers in Northeastern Illinois and so on. So that's another network for ideas and support.
Okay, I will look them up.
I just wonder, I think that's a neat idea, Wayne, about maybe doing this every Saturday morning for an hour. And we could include people like Marianne Ostowski from Marianne, are you there? Marianne?
Yes, I'm here. I had
Okay.
on mute. It takes me a while sometimes to.
No, but what did you think of that? Of maybe getting together an hour every Saturday morning to talk about the Wolf Lake Watershed with teachers, various teachers that would want to sit in on that.
Well,
I mean, you don't have anything else to do Saturday morning, so we could do that, huh?
well, no, I was just thinking, I do have a lot of slides of Eggers because this has to be virtual. Actually, I mean, I'm thinking about things like you know, all of the nature programs where they go walking through the woods and there's a camera following them and everything. Well, these days with your phone, you have your own camera for just, you know, showing what you might be talking about. And Eggers has a lot of stuff to show. Actually, Melissa, I was thinking, I was going to ask, are all of your students within walking distance of Wolf Lake? I mean, where is Grissom and Hegewisch? Is that, I'm not real familiar. I'm more familiar with East Side than I am with Hegewisch.
Yeah, Grissom is on 128th and Escanaba. So it's not exactly walking distance to Wolf Lake.
Mm-hmm. And so some of your students would definitely not be walking distance to Wolf Lake.
No.
No.
I could walk from Wolf Lake because I live on Avenue N. So I'm,
yeah.
You know, it's very close. I'm on the east side of Avenue O, but they're very west of Avenue O.
Yeah, anything west of Avenue O is really tricky. Okay, because I mean, it would be, I have not done a lot of, you know, just observing within Wolf Lake, but just to take students into Wolf Lake for just a nature walk with someone who knew Wolf Lake, well, on a Saturday morning, maybe even when parents could attend, would be pleasant. I have to think about it, Michael.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure. I mean, so slides are one thing, and yes, talking about, you know, various kinds of. My specialty is plants, although we have set tiger salamanders at Eggers, but the only evidence of a tiger salamander is the picture I took, and the Forest Preserve District was delighted to find out that that I had actually taken the picture, because they don't have the you know, the staff to go looking for things like tiger salamanders, and I wasn't looking for this one. He just happened to be there when I was there. But it's not, you know, I mean, it would all be, it wouldn't be live unless I can figure out something to do with my phone, you know, while we do a nature walk, if it has to be virtual. Like I say, I have to think about this. This is.
Yes, and we had that segment of film from the tour that we did of Wolf Lake in June, and that will be posted on our website, I assume, shortly. And in fact, maybe if we have some time after today's discussion, I have a 10-minute video of the Wolf Lake watershed, which I would like to show to everybody if they have the time.
Yeah. Well, Michael, I think following up on your idea of having a teacher meetup, that trying to do it every Saturday, I think becomes a little maybe time consuming, but I think that if we had it, say, the second Saturday of each month, and there's an agenda, and the teachers can do a little boasting and bragging what they've done since the next one and how the ideas are growing, because as you've heard right now with some sharing in that, the wheels have started to turn. And so what we've got to do is to allow them to debrief what they have tried since this with their students in that. So I think if you looked at and got a few people to be discussion leaders, and then possibly they could we could invite a key student or two to jump on and do a little sharing via Zoom, also. But we'd have to make sure we do proper youth protocol and just first names and, so on like that. So we'd also have to get a photo release from their parents if we did have the minors, come on and that. But maybe just start with the teachers and let them tell their stories.
And the teachers could invite their colleagues as well.
Yeah.
And that is what I think is fairly easily to do.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe something like the first or second.
Okay, the teacher that Uh, Melissa, you're Grissom Elementary. What high school do most of the students go to down there?
They feed into Washington High School.
Okay, now does Washington High School have any type of green program or ecology or club or anything like that that you know of?
They do. I don't know who's running it. I know they do Simbi over there.
Okay.
And I know many of my former students from Taylor had went to Washington and continued to do things on the weekend in Eggers Grove that was tied to the school. They were doing stuff with invasive plants over there.
Well, then maybe, Michael, you could try and contact that person at Washington to get that teacher into the mix here in that, because some of the high school students could be motivators for the grade school kids, or they could partner up and so on like that. So there's some, possibilities of using the high school maturity and leadership and so on like that to help, excite the younger kids to want to do more exploration and learning and knowledge growth and so on.
Yeah, and some of the students at both Hegewisch and on the east side the Catholics go to Bishop Noel Institute. So they would run into Rebecca over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
all right, I want to bring the Q&A to a close so we can hear from our next speaker, Jory Matthews, which we've already heard from. But anyway, Jory, why don't you explain your project, and then we'll continue the discussion after that.
Okay, so once again, my name's Jory Matthews. I am in Northwest Indiana in a small school district just east of Gary called River Forest. I'm in my 13th year of teaching. In the last 7, I've been the 6th grade science teacher here in our middle school. And our building here is actually a middle and high school. So we have 6 through 12 roam in the halls here. And that'll come into play here in a minute when I explain my project. So the focus of the project is really all about providing our 6th grade students, the entire class, a field trip over to Hammond. So it would be a split field trip where half the students start at Gibson Woods, the other half start at Wolf Lake Park. They spend a couple hours at each doing some assignments and experiments, and then they would have a picnic in the middle, and then they would switch locations. So when setting this up and applying for it, I talked to my 6th grade team. There's 5 of us, and they all agreed to be on board. So actually, I should probably share. Let me share my screen. I don't have much to share, but did create this here. All 5 teachers agreed to be part of this experience. So, for example, the social studies teacher talked about incorporating map skills. So he would be one of the teachers at Gibson Woods. So incorporating what he's teaching in his social studies class along with what they'd be doing in the field trip. Language arts, just written responses to nonfiction readings on watersheds and the human impact on them. And then also a poetry activity at Gibson Woods. Same thing with the reading teacher, doing nonfiction readings on watersheds and water pollutions. And then math and science, me being the science teacher, really focusing on measurement and data collection. So math reviewing, of course, fractions, decimals, percentages, and then creating charts and graphs with their collected data. And then part of the 6th grade curriculum anyway is talking about ecosystems and biodiversity. So then taking some of that and doing these measurements and data collection at each location. I'm not going to read through both of these paragraphs, but another part of this experience is getting the students involved in citizen science, which I know Wayne was kind of hinting at a little bit ago. So at Gibson Woods, one of the projects they would be doing is participating in Project Budburst. which I'm sure some of you know or at least have heard of, where they are taking detailed observations and submitting those observations to this project, which I believe is run out of the Botanical Gardens in Chicago. So they collect information from all over and help scientists track when plants are flowering or budding or which stage of their life cycle they're in, and trying to tie that into climate change and track the patterns and whatnot. So they'd actually be doing those observations in both locations, once at Gibson Woods and then once actually with the aquatic plants at Wolf Lake. And then at Wolf Lake, the other thing they would be doing is another citizen science project, and this one's actually global, which is called World Water Monitoring. And if this tab's not locked, here we go. So this is part of what the funds from this grant would purchase, is mostly the water testing materials, because we don't have many of them here at our school. So they just provide these classroom kits, which our funding would be getting enough to get 2 of these kits, but different sampling jars, the pH tubes. It's not real high level water testing. I mean, it sounds like there's some high school biology and environmental science teachers here, so this is really basic stuff. But for the 6th graders, of course, they've never done anything like this. So the dissolved oxygen, the Secchi discs, so getting them to do this. And this program offers some pretty basic assignments and activities where the students will do actual data collection and then submit their data to this group, which we put in the database, which is collected around the world. So this is one of the main activities they'll do while actually at Wolf Lake Park. And then some of the other money in here will be to get some other actual water meters and dissolved oxygen meters to have here at the school. And the last point I'll make is, in addition to the entire 6th grade team being on board, I'm pretty good friends with our high school AP Biology and AP Environmental Science teacher. So when deciding on what to do and which materials to buy here, I actually had a pretty good conversation, and him and I sat down and did this together, because in addition to doing this one field trip, we wanted to get some materials that were actually high quality, that even after the field trip's done, we could have here at our school to use, both in his high school classes and then in my own science class. So made sure to get some decent tools here that can be used long term. And I put here in this little final paragraph that we're really lucky. So our school is called River Forest, and it's not a coincidence. So we're right next to Deep River, and then we have this wooded area right behind our school that is actually a pretty cool natural area. I know I was talking to some people about it when we did our Wolf Lake that day-long workshop. So we have multiple ecosystems back there. There's 298 native plants that have been identified back there. And on that FQI scale, for those of you who are familiar with that floristic quality index, there's 50 that have received a rating of either 8, 9, or 10, meaning they're really rare or endangered. So me and that other high school teacher especially take our students back there. There's actually a hiking trail system set back there as well, where we can take our students back. So part of this field trip is they will have already done some of these activities here at our own school. So they're not just simply going to Gibson Woods and doing, observations for the very first time, and therefore probably not getting anything that's decent enough to submit. But we will have practiced these here at our own school before going, so we actually can get some meaningful data. So, and then after that, we'll be able to compare what we observed in the water quality and the different biodiversity on the field trip with what we have here actually at our own school, and kind of make it a whole Northwest Indiana experience to help them connect one spot to another. And that's the gist of the experience. One thing that was also supposed to happen, of course, is we were supposed to take this field trip here in the fall. And then every year in late May, at least the last couple years, I've organized a trip to the Indiana Dunes here in Gary. So we start at the Douglas Center in Miller, and we hike through those woods and lead out all the way to the beach. And for our demographics, we're a majority minority school, so about 40% Hispanic, a little more than 10% African American, and 75 to 80% free and reduced lunch. So every year I'm always surprised the number of sixth graders that I have who have never been to Chicago, and some of them have never even seen Lake Michigan. So part of this is really all about not only the science aspect of it, but getting these students out of our small community to go to, I mean, I'm sure most of them have probably never even heard of Wolf Lake. So to get them over there and just experiencing something new was one of the main driving factors of me applying for this grant. And then of course, just wanted to say thank you again for the monies to do this, because without it, we wouldn't be able to have this meaningful experience for the students.
Okay. Thank you, Tori. Are there questions?
Well, I just want to comment that I think that you have developed a fantastic program for the sixth grade, because that's probably the most curious. The students are most curious and able to learn so much, and not having to have costly items or great amount of knowledge in order to make observations and draw conclusions. And so I think that that's an exciting thing that you want to do. And I think that the more you can get them out experiencing the dunes and experiencing the lake and so on, and what it offers and so on. And so there is a global network sharing program that includes elementary schools, and you may want to look at it. It's called iEarn, the International Education and Resource Network. iEarn, IEARN.org. And it's where you and your students can go on and share similar type of activities and connect with other elementary schools and so on around the world. So, if you got questions on how to use it, I helped get that organization going 32 years ago. So anyhow, yeah. So you're spot on, and you're going to have a lot of fun and so on.
Other questions?
I guess I'd like to just make a general comment. I thought this was maybe the most exciting of the 3 days of your, and so I give credit to all three of the teachers. They're doing great work. And we've got a new generation of smarter people coming up here than I think we are. So way to go.
Yeah. Well, I think with if you could become available for some of the teachers, student, sharing in that with the stories and the knowledge and the of a bigger picture and so on, because you've got an opportunity to skillfully tell a story or take one of the objects behind you and so on and relate it, to them in that. So it's got to become a joint effort. And I think that, Michael is just beginning to, tap the resource potential of getting a citizens action group, a CAG, program, down here that around the Superfund site that educates the people about the entire watershed and so on like that. So, I think the possibilities are just endless.
So that brings me to a question to Durs. Do you think this is a good idea of bringing teachers together for an hour or two on Saturday, once a month, And would you be willing to, and I was thinking as the morning went on that we might have a guest speaker for each of our meetings, much like we had at these 3 days. And we can invite different folks in from the Field Museum and other places, just to give maybe a 15-minute talk about what that the subject of the day, whether it's dragonflies or pollinators or any other subject. And I don't know if we could get people out on Saturday morning.
Well, even if you only got 4 or 5, that's a lot more engagement with 4 or 5 than, you know, last month's meeting, which never was. So I think, Michael, any part of the resource base that you can use to share and give ideas to the educators and let them cross-pollinate in that. I think that don't worry about, is this right, in that it's logical to you and whoever you partner with to develop it, and just get something going. And because somebody's going to identify and somebody's going to participate, and granted it'll be small, but I think as the word gets out, that I think that will be, you'll attract more people to, learning in, about, and from the natural resource base of the Greater Wolf Lake watershed.
So what do you think about that, Melissa? Oh,
I think that's great.
okay.
Sorry, I'm here.
Okay.
Can I mute myself? There you go.
No, but I thought, I know Rebecca's not here, but Dory, you think we could do that?
I think so. And I like participating in things like this. I mean, most of what I do tends to be out of the Douglas Center in Miller, but
Right.
It's like, every couple months there's some sort of small workshop there that I'm interested in doing. I mean, nowadays they seem to mostly be virtual, but even like the Illinois Indiana Sea Grant has been doing these once a month workshops that, I did one in October and I'm doing the other one in December, just based on my interest in the topics. But I think there are definitely teachers who are interested in this kind of stuff. And I guess just speaking about myself, and probably Melissa here as well, I think there's a difference between being interested in it and then knowing really how to get started. I think that's kind of what Wayne's hinting at here. If you get enough people together who know what they're talking about, they can give us those stepping stones that would help teachers actually take some action instead of just having ideas that never quite develop.
Well, the other thing you could look at, Michael, is for the teachers, they have to, advance with professional development hours and that, or graduate credit courses and so on, as to whether you could, find out, a reward, system to make it, double beneficial, one for their pocketbook and one for the student, their students to go and grow. So I think that, that would be an enticement to, I guess, get more teachers involved with it in that. So, and then we'd get a learning community and maybe tie it into Purdue Northwest or, something like that, or just the respective Indiana or Illinois professional development unit programs that they have.
Yes, we have a education department at Calumet College where I'm located.
Yeah.
So they've been helping out, helping us with this teacher program. So I think that that we have the resources, and I really think it's doable, and I think it's we could maybe schedule something for the first Saturday in December.
Yeah.
Can't even
Let's
remember what month it is, but
pick the date, and those that can make it and get bragging rights that, you know, I was there, got this idea, and so on. So
how did Jory and Melissa? You think 2 hours? We can make it for 2 hours, or let's make it for an hour and a half for the starting at 9 a.m. on what's the first Saturday in December?
December 5th.
December 5th. You don't have anything going on there. You don't have to rake any leaves by then. And, and,
I have to check for December because I have the Chicago Math Symposium. I think it might be virtual too, but I'm pretty sure I have that the first Saturday.
okay.
And I think that
One of the things is that, but Melissa, you have a colleague that would want to do this, right?
I'm kind of on my own. I'm the only science person at this school.
Okay.
but again, you may want to look at the way the gentleman, what's your first name? The sixth grade.
George.
What is it? George? Yeah, that he's involving some other subject areas in that, because that, I think, is the neat thing, that you're bringing along the other aspects of the students' knowledge growth plan and using those resources. So I think that's the one thing that we have to look at, because at sixth grade, it's so easy to do that. And so I think that's what we have to do, is to integrate it, not just science, but social.
Oh, it's absolutely cross-curricular. There's so many aspects to it with the math,
so
social studies.
that's where I think that if you, social studies is the easiest one, but again, you're dealing with the out of doors, you've got art, you've got, the history, the trails, and so on, because kids are always intrigued as to where the old trails were. It's a mystery, it's a detective, adventure, and so on. So
I might actually be able to get my teacher assistant to come. She does a lot of the gardening at the school, and she leads a gardening club and works with open lands.
Okay. Yeah. So
she's definitely on board any way that she could gather kids.
Especially if she could get a gardening program going where not only just doing fruits and vegetables, but to propagate some of the, milkweeds and some other.
Yeah, she does all of that.
Yeah, rare and endangered species.
And puts them in different areas of the school.
Yeah, where they, then the students can take the propagated rare and endangered species home and plant them in their backyards, or take them out and use it in some of the restoration activities if it's meets seed source requirements of the forest preserve or the natural resource area where they're being planted. Yeah.
Well, I would really like to be part of December myself, though. I don't mind inviting others, but I want to be here myself. I don't think the first Saturday will work, but any of the other Saturdays are fine. It's just that first Saturday that I'm booked.
That's the same for me.
Okay, we can put it, I think that's kind of good. We'll put it on the second Saturday of the month. We all can't attend every meeting.
No,
everybody, but at least if you get a handful or two, it's a learning opportunity for a lot of things. And Wayne, you're right. It doesn't just have to be science. And right. I think we could do something here. Durs, what do you think about this?
It's a great idea. I think inviting, you're in touch with so many potential speakers, Michael. If you got one speaker once a month, for 10 or 15 minutes, that would be terrific.
Yeah.
Because I have 9 speakers a year on Calumet Revisited alone. And so, and it's amazing that, but we are talking about Saturday and not about a work day. So I think, but I think we can get people together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to follow up with this. And I'm just thinking that none of the teachers have received the $1,000 grant that's coming their way. But if this is the start of a program, then they're going to be asking me, where's the money? So, and that could be, I don't think they need incentives at all, but that would be an additional incentive because we were planning on their program starting in the fall, and they would have already received the $1,000 grant. But I think if we can start in December, we'll just release the money then. And then they'll be prepared for the spring. We may not be able to have the programs even start in the spring, but we don't know. But nobody knows. But we can plan for it.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah, I am so happy that we're having this discussion because one of the reasons for this meeting is to move ahead and apply it. And I think this discussion is just great. I have this 10-minute film, and I would like to share it with you. Are there any other discussion points before I show it?
Yeah, I was going to add in that as far as presenters that you're looking for after you start the programs with the students, students love to present their findings. At least I know. I know that in the martial arts online classes that I've done with the dojo I study at, the kids love to talk to the camera, and I think that would be something that would carry over to this. Once they've gotten their findings on some projects, then they could, maybe you could call them like, it would be an out of class project, like a club or something. And if you give them a title like the president of the nature club, then they might be very engaged to put together something on a Saturday morning for you.
Yeah, you're so right. Anything to excite the kids and give them a sense of value, sense of being wanted, and a sense of being able to be heard, and so on. So, it's just so critically needed, especially at this time. So you're so right.
Okay, so I'd like to start the movie now, and
Okay, go ahead.
let me see if I can do it. But this is not, we'll have another 10-minute film of the June visit to the Wolf Lake watershed. And this is not it. This is a separate film about the same length, and it's not completely, it's not complete, but it's close to being complete. Oh, let me just share this with you. Was organized in 1999 to get all the partners in the
Michael, the image isn't up on the screen.
talk to each other. And some of the stakeholders are-
Yeah, I can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it?
No,
Okay. I could see it, but no one else could.
No.
no.
Okay. Well,
Well,
I'm going to have to take some lessons to figure out how to do this the next time.
Yeah,
But I
you
don't-
might need to minimize your email.
Oh, okay. Okay, okay, let me just do this again. The Association for the Workplace Commission, or OLLI, as we call it.
Yeah, still not working.
Yeah, we're seeing an email.
Bi-state workplace area. Okay. Talk to each other. And some of the stakeholders are city of Hammond.
take your
Okay.
time. This technology for us gray hair is a little overwhelming at times.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Michael, what you maybe clicked on was to share your Google, like a tab on the internet and not your screen. Because when you exited your email, it stopped sharing your screen totally. So you might have to choose to just share your entire desktop.
If you look behind me, you can see typical aquatic ecosystem, all kinds of natural life going on.
As we still hear the movie playing, we don't see it.
And there's 100, 150 years of this sort of environmental impact. And they're living, right next to each other. Wolf Lake is just one of those two.
Now I can't get,
region that
let me
we still
just,
are trying to understand. Why is there such wonderful biodiversity in this lake that we really haven't taken very good care of for such a long time, and yet vestiges of it remain. And as it turns out, Wolf Lake is a very unique species living in it called mudpup, a fully aquatic salamander, and for whatever reason, Wolf Lake has one of the largest populations in Illinois. We're starting to do restoration projects. We're starting to bring agriculture back. And so
okay. I'll have to take some Saturday courses in how to operate that. And maybe I can't, but it was, I was trying to bring up, well, you heard the sound, so that,
Well, but we heard the sound because we were hearing not the sound from the video, but what you were hearing. It was like you were talking to us, not, yeah.
so I'll just have to figure that out. In fact, Richard, you're coming in this afternoon. You want to help me out on this?
Sure.
Okay. Well, okay. And so the second Saturday of December, maybe we can do it again. So are there any other questions?
I was going to say the next time we meet, you may want to start off with that 10-minute video to kind of take us mentally from what we're dealing with now and getting involved with Wolf Lake, and then to hear the exciting things that the teachers are doing and so on. So.
And by that time, I may have the other 10-minute video that was recorded on our tour of the Wolf Lake watershed in June. So we could work around that. Probably an hour and a half would be the longest for the timing of the December meeting.
Well, sometimes shorter is better, where you just ignite the ideas and so on like that, that maybe you could send the videos out as an attachment, and we could look at them at our own pace and so on beforehand.
Yeah.
And in order to get that going, and then if you could maybe present the discussion topics, we could think about it and so on, and then just have an hour in and out and so on. So,
Okay,
yeah.
good. I think we stumbled onto something this morning.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
Well, see, that's what's going to happen as you're talking and sharing with exciting educators that want to, educate youth using nature's resources in that, because it's always so exciting. So, yeah.
all right. So it's a Saturday morning. We don't know who our
No.
president's going to be. So I think we all want to check that out later in the day anyway. And
Yeah.
I've got to rake some leaves between now and when Richard comes by at 2 in the afternoon. So
Okay.
anyway, I'm glad to share a Saturday morning with all of you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad that we had the discussion that we had, and I think that's going to lead to something good. So thank you all, and take care.
Okay.
Michael.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Stay
Night.
safe.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.